Ranking the top players in any sport can be a very difficult task. Everyone has different opinions and you're always going to have someone unhappy with your selections. So rather than giving you guys another generic top 10 list, I decided I wanted to let you guys decide who is going to be the top 10 players for the 2024-25 NHL hockey season. So I sent out a post on my community tab here on YouTube as well as some of my other social media platforms and received an outrageous number of responses. So what I did was I rallied all of the answers together and I averaged out the top 10 based on your answers that you submitted. So what I'm going to do today is give you guys my top 10 and compare it to what you guys think the top 10 should be for the upcoming hockey season. I'll also go through some of the ridiculous lists that I found because I feel like either some people were trolling or there was just some incredible bias to this video as well. So if you guys have been liking the content lately, make sure you hit that subscribe button now. It lets you guys know whenever I post new videos like this, and let's get right into this one. So let's begin with my top 10 list. At number 1, I have Connor McDavid. At number 2, Nathan MacKinnon. At number 3, Austin Matthews. At number 4, Leon Draisaitl. Number 5, Cale Makar. Number 6, Nikita Kucherov. Number 7, David Pastrnak. Number 8, Sidney Crosby. Number 9, Artemi Panarin. And at number 10, I have Matthew Tkachuk. A few other guys could have been included on this list, but these are the 10 guys who I feel are most deserving for a top 10 selection in this upcoming hockey season. Now, once I compiled all of your data, these are the results that I received, and honestly, it was pretty decisive for most of these numbers. You guys selected at your number 1 pick Connor McDavid, at number 2 Nathan MacKinnon, at number 3 Austin Matthews, at number 4 Nikita Kucherov, at number 5 Cale Makar, at number 6 David Pastrnak, at number 7 Artemi Panarin, at number 8 Leon Draisaitl, number 9 Igor Shesterkin, and number 10 Alexander Barkov. Now, I think this is a very different list from mine, especially when it comes to the bottom 5. When I take a look at my list, I think I really valued centers and some of the top goal scorers in the league as well. I know some people would probably consider Leon Draisaitl to be higher than Austin Matthews, and I feel like when it comes to the 3 and 4 spot, swapping those two guys around, it really doesn't make a difference. They're both exceptional players, and I wouldn't be mad if some people wanted to include Leon Draisaitl a little bit higher. Now, I put Cale Makar at number 5. He's also one of those players that I feel like is interchangeable with Matthews and Draisaitl. Those are 3 players who I feel like you could really swap around, and it wouldn't really change the list all that much. They're all exceptional and all belong in the top 5. And when it comes to the bottom 5, this is where things get interesting. Now, when you compare your list to my list, you guys have Nikita Kucherov in the top 5, but Leon Draisaitl is all the way down at number 8. This to me is a little bit ridiculous. When you look at the players that are above him, Panarin, Pastrnak, and Kucherov, I feel like Draisaitl has been more productive and more consistent than all of those guys, and he definitely belongs a little bit higher than them. The only guy I would say I'm not too mad about is the Nikita Kucherov pick, just based on this last season that he just had. I think we all can agree that he can put up numbers similar to Draisaitl, so for the two of them, it really isn't a huge jump off, but to put Austin Matthews above Nikita Kucherov and then say that Leon Draisaitl is 4 spots down, that to me just doesn't make all that much sense. Now, the next thing you guys had on your list was Artemi Panarin at number 7, where I had him at number 9. I'm not saying that he's better than Sidney Crosby or worse than Sidney Crosby, but I do just feel like the position of center is just a little bit more valuable than a winger. I will say this last season really does boost up Artemi Panarin, in my eyes at least. I feel like he's definitely a top 10 player, but I'm not sure if he's better than Draisaitl and then of course Crosby. The last thing you guys had was Igor Shesterkin on your list, something that, well, I don't know. I didn't include goalies for one reason and one reason only. I feel like it's a little bit complicated to compare that position to other positions. And I do feel like when it comes to goaltending, they're kind of just a separate category. The other guy that came up, if you want to exclude Igor Shesterkin from your list, was either Quinn Hughes and Alexander Barkov, who were both tied at number 10. Barkov, to me, I did think about putting him at number 10 instead of Matthew Tkachuk as well. I do think he brings a little bit more value from his game, being that two-way defensive center that he is. And if he kind of took away some of those defensive traits, I feel like his offensive numbers would rise and be very similar to Matthew Tkachuk's. And Quinn Hughes, to me, I don't think that he's a top 10 player just yet. I think when it comes to top 20 players, Quinn Hughes definitely belongs in that list, but I still am in the camp that thinks that Adam Fox is slightly better than Quinn Hughes, so I couldn't put him at number 10 when I already think there's another another defenseman who's better than him, but not on my top 10 list. Overall, I think we had some pretty similar lists though, especially when it comes to the top 5. McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews, we all can agree are basically the top 3 players. Having Draisaitl at number 4 versus Kucherov, that doesn't make me mad. The only thing that gets me a little bit annoyed about your list is that Draisaitl is so low. I'm not sure how you could have so many other players above him when the guy has had so many 100-point seasons and is so dominant in the playoffs. So I do think that you guys need to put a little bit more credit to Leon Draisaitl's name and move him up. Pasta at 6 or 7, that makes sense to me, not a big deal. Panarin, I'm fine with being at number 7, but again, I don't know who you're going to take out if Draisaitl is already above him. I feel like Pasta's a little better than him, so I would move him down to 8 and put Draisaitl up at 4, bumping Kucherov, Makar, Pasta down. And then Crosby, that's fine, 8 or 9. It's pretty similar. Your guys' final pick, I'm okay with Barkov, Quinn Hughes, and Igor Shesterkin. It just really doesn't make sense for this sort of list. Again, Igor Shesterkin is fine if you want to consider a goalie in your top 10, but I just don't think that Quinn Hughes is at that point yet. Now, like I mentioned, when I posted the community post on my YouTube, I was going to give a few of you guys a shout out based on your list. So I just want to go through some of the ones that I saw here and just kind of give you guys a critique on your top 10. First post is from @Angel Wilt, who has Connor McDavid 1, Nathan McKinnon 2, Cale Makar number 3, nothing wrong so far. Leon Draisaitl at 4, again, there's nothing wrong here. But then they have Quinn Hughes at 5, Matthews at 6, Crosby, Panarin, Barkov, Pastrnak. I think that Pastrnak is way too low on this list. Quinn Hughes is way too high on this list just looking at it. But outside of that, I think you basically have the top 10 down. I think you're missing maybe that final player. I just don't think that Quinn Hughes belongs at number 5. Maybe he could be at number 10 if that's where you value him. Next up, we have Gorilla Master 001. They have Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Nathan McKinnon, Matthew Tkachuk very high at number 4, Cale Makar, Artemi Panarin, David Pastrnak, Adam Fox, Quinn Hughes, Leon Draisaitl. Now, again, looking at this, you're missing a few players here. I feel like not having Crosby in your top 10 kind of stands out to me the most. Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox being in your top 10, but not having any goalies. Again, they don't have players like Barkov included on this list, but I'm not super mad at it. I just feel like Quinn Hughes, Adam Fox, maybe they're not top 10 level yet, but they're just outside of that. I'm not too mad at this list. I can see that there's probably a little bit more defensive bias in this one, but I'm okay with it. Again, Leon Draisaitl being very underrated on this list too at number 10. Like I said, I was going to throw in a couple biased ones here, so as we go down the list, I just want to show you guys a few of these, and you can tell they're biased just from the profile picture and username. This one comes from @CriedProds, who says, my top 10 are Chris Kreider, Connor McDavid, Artemi Panarin, Nathan McKinnon, Elias Pettersson, Matt Barzal, Connor Bedard, Trevor Zegras, Jason Robertson, and Kirill Kaprizov. I just was looking at this list and I was just like, you're forgetting so many marquee players. First off, no Austin Matthews. Second, no Leon Draisaitl. Third, no Cale Makar. Chris Kreider at number 1. You can see the bias. I'm trying to take away the Ranger at the top and just consider that to be a wash. Seeing some of the other players, I don't think that Matt Barzal is a top 10 player. He's not even close. Trevor Zegras, what makes him a top 10 player? And I guess Connor Bedard too. Why are we putting him so high so soon? He's only had 1 season. But shout out to you. Thanks for watching the videos. Let's move on to the next person. Next up, we have CPT Blue Hawk 57, who says Connor McDavid at 1, the Mack Truck, Nathan McKinnon at 2, Austin Matthews at 3, Miro Heiskanen getting a nod at 4, Barkov at 5, Draisaitl at 6, Kucherov at 7, Shesterkin at 8, Makar at 9, and Swayman at 10. Honorable mentions, they have Bobrovsky, Hellebuck, Tkachuk, Panarin, Robertson, Otter, Crosby, and Seider. Now, they threw the Seider one in there because they're a Red Wings fan, as you can see from their profile picture. I think Miro Heiskanen's a little bit too high. I also think that Swayman doesn't belong on the top 10. Again, you can throw it in there if you want to talk about goalies, but the rest of it's sort of fine. You have basically the big-time players on this list, but yeah, a couple of the other guys from your honorable mention should probably be in the top 10 list for some of the guys you threw in there. Next up, we have AJ Drew 5457, who took the liberty of separating goalies from players. Thank you very much. So let's go through each one just to give him a nod for that. First up with the players list, he has Connor McDavid, then Nathan McKinnon, Austin Matthews, Cale Makar, Leon Draisaitl, David Pastrnak, Adam Fox, Matthew Tkachuk, Quinn Hughes, and then Mikko Rantanen. Honorable mentions, Crosby, Panarin, Heiskanen, Yossi, and Robertson. Nothing too crazy about the list. I think he has Adam Fox a little bit too high. Again, Quinn Hughes is making an appearance. You have McDavid, no Kucherov on this list. I think that one's maybe one you missed, but I do think Kucherov belongs in the top 10. And no Sidney Crosby in the top 10, but he is in your honorable mentions. Then you gave me a couple top 5 goalies, Hellebuck, Shesterkin, Otter, Demko, Sorokin, and then Swayman, Vasi, and Saros in your honorable mentions. I'm not mad about that list either. I feel like the goaltenders, when it comes to the top 5, it's not that big a deal. You could kind of go with any of them. Next up, we have at Pigeon Nintendo, whose list goes like this: Connor McDavid, Nathan MacKinnon, Austin Matthews, Artemi Panarin, Quinn Hughes, Draisaitl, Makar, Pastrnak, Kucherov, and Yossi. Again, I think Quinn Hughes is way too high. He's not better than Cale Makar, and he's not better than Leon Draisaitl or Pastrnak or even Kucherov, as a matter of fact. I also think Roman Yossi doesn't really make the top 10 on most lists, so I probably wouldn't include him on a list like this. We're just going to go through 2 more lists real quickly. Next up, we have the Hunter 6, who puts Kirill Kaprizov at number 1, Mikko Rantanen number 2, Brock Faber number 3, Sid the Kid number 4, Flower, Marc-Andre Fleury at number 5, Jonathan Toews, who's not in the league anymore, at number 6, Jonathan Quick at number 7, Matthew Tkachuk at 8, Connor McDavid at 9, and then Matt Boldy at 10. This person's clearly a Minnesota Wild fan, having Kaprizov, Faber, Marc-Andre Fleury, and Boldy in their list. What's crazy about me is this person clearly is a bit more of an old head or an old-time hockey fan, because they do have some of the older guys on this list who either aren't playing in the league like Jonathan Toews or who are backup goalies like Jonathan Quick and Marc-Andre Fleury. This isn't the right list, but it's a fun one if you're a Wild fan. I'm sure you'll support this one a lot. And last one on my list we're going to review is a non-biased one at all. It's actually from Canucks Nate, who says his top 10 are Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, JT Miller, Brock Besser, Thatcher Demko, Nathan MacKinnon, Connor Bedard, Nikita Kucherov, David Pastrnak, and Cale Makar. No bias here, not having Connor McDavid in your top 10, right? Not like he just knocked your team out of the playoffs, so you don't want to include him or Leon Draisaitl on your list. Also, not having Austin Matthews is crazy. You have 3 of the top 10 players in the world who everyone puts on their list out of it to put a bunch of Canucks. I know it's just for fun, but this one's just crazy to me. You could just see the fan bias. But yeah, these are the top 10. You guys decided. Let me know what you guys think, if you agree with everyone's take and the average picks, or if you're more geared towards my list and my top 10. I have them both here for you right now. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll see you guys in the next one.